this. Ooh. Stephen King. Okay. 2019. It's not rated? What the fuck? It was? Okay, maybe we watch this one next then. I know there's a few that have already come out and that have been out for a while that I need to catch up on. I haven't seen a whole lot of horror movies. I know I was talking to Brie Lynn about doing As Above, So Below. We still need to watch that one. That one's like my favorite. That's my favorite movie. Watched it a few times. Very good. Fuck yes. Is it really a Netflix original? I mean, obviously I can't watch it on stream, but I found a workaround in the Discord. So we can do Discord movie nights with just about any streaming service. Shit fucks with your head. That's my jam, baby. That's my shit. If the movie ends and I'm just sitting there with my mouth open thinking what the fuck just happened, that's my shit. Don't give me a resolution. I don't need a resolution. I'm perfectly fine leaving with more questions than answers. And that was one thing that I didn't like about Barbarian was the resolution at the very end. Like I loved when they were down in the depths. I loved that, like the fucking catacomb style shit underneath the house. Oh man, the dread that something was coming all the time. It was good. That was good shit. Okay. Going back to the story. Can we talk? I love you. Please call me. I'm really worried. Can you answer? Just come home. And more of the same. All texts telling me she loved me. She wanted me home. How worried she was. Not a damn one addressing the crazy shit she pulled. Like she hadn't been acting like a character from a Stephen King book. Even her texts were different. She normally texted novels just to tell me to pick up a loaf of bread. You'd think she'd have more to say to me other than her bizarre shenanigans. I know it probably seems childish to some of you who are miles away from this situation, but if you saw the way Lynn had looked at me, how she scampered away on all fours like some wild animal, grinning at me from inside the closet like a lunatic, then I'd think you'd find my reaction was warranted. I ended up staying with Chris and Rebecca for another night. I didn't wake up yesterday until afternoon, and thankfully, I didn't see Lynn's face watching me through the window. I didn't want to pry, because it's not my place. But is this... Oh, I don't want to pry, because it's not my place. But is this fight something that can be mended? Rebecca asked. She'd made us both a sandwich for lunch, and I knew she wanted to breach the subject without seeming to be nosy. I don't know. She's like a different person, I said, choosing my words carefully. I still wasn't ready for her or Chris to know the full extent of the batshit craziness I'd been dealing with. People change, Ben, but she's still the same woman you married. Maybe you both just need to talk through your issues. Whatever's going on, I'm sure it can be fixed, she said, even ever the peacemaker. I think it's beyond that now. I don't think talking would help. I just don't trust her. The words stung in my heart. I missed and loved my wife, but how could I live with someone like that? Living in constant fear didn't sound too appealing. Lynn loves you. She has to be absolutely crushed, she said. I don't know about that, I said. Well, she certainly seemed like it to me. I've never seen her so upset. Very much unlike the Lynn I know, Rebecca said, shaking her head sadly. It took a full minute for her words to sink in, and when they did, I felt dread worming its way through my skin. Wait, what do you mean? You saw her? You saw Lynn? I asked, my mouth suddenly dry. Rebecca nodded casually as if the fact wasn't nightmare fuel. Maybe for her it wasn't. She stopped by this morning just after Chris left for work, she said, cleaning the plates from the table. I didn't see her car though. Maybe she took an Uber or something? Beck, what did she say? Did did she come inside? I asked, sweat starting to break out on my forehead. I began looking around, examining corners as though a predator lurked behind them. No, she just asked if you were awake, and I said that you weren't. I asked if she wanted me to wake you up, but she said no, just to let you sleep, she said as she washed the dishes. That's all? She didn't say anything else? I asked. No, she looked awful though, like she hadn't slept in days. I think you should call her. I got up from the table and thanked Rebecca for lunch. I felt a little bit better at the knowledge that at least she hadn't come inside. Still, I needed to double check that all the doors were locked. I sat for a while trying to figure out what to do next. I didn't want to go home, but I felt that I owed it to Lynn to help her if I could. Hadn't I sworn an oath to love and honor her through sickness and in health? Clearly, she was very sick. If she was sick, which I truly believe she was, I had to try and get her the help that she needed, but I didn't even know where to start. I didn't want to call the police, and besides, what the hell was I going to tell them? That my wife was peeking at me? That she was being creepy? As bizarre as she'd been, she still hadn't committed any crime. Not yet, anyway. The police would have probably said that I was overreacting, but this wasn't some prank. It felt wrong, dangerous even, like something sinister lurked beneath her smile. I knew as her husband I was well within my rights to have her committed. But what if she simply acted normal in their presence? She'd obviously be able to fool Rebecca into thinking she was just a concerned wife. As long as the doctors didn't find a danger to herself or others, they'd have no choice but to release her after 72 hours. I felt lost and overwhelmed. So I did what any husband in my position would do. I called her mother. I didn't want to, believe me. Her mother, Marianne, and I were never on the best of terms. We'd never fought or anything like that. She just wasn't a very warm person and wasn't really easy to get along with. She hardly ever smiled, and when she did, only her lips would move into a thin-lipped smile, leaving her eyes blank as before. She gave off this aura that felt like she was permanently on the offensive. I'd only met her twice, and both times were such short visits. I got the impression she didn't approve of me or her daughter. Lynn was always ushering us out quickly, as she didn't want me to feel uncomfortable, which I was grateful for. Being in her mother's company felt almost unbearable, like walking on glass. I was glad when we moved 3 states away so we didn't have to see her often. I was happy to avoid the woman, but I needed her help. I really didn't want to talk to her at all, but I had to talk to someone who knew Lynn better than I did. So I grit my teeth and did what I had to do. Yes, she answered, already sounding irritated. Marianne, it's me, Ben. Do you have a minute to talk? I asked. I could hear her cluck her tongue in irritation. I'm in the middle of writing some checks, but if you insist, I suppose I can spare a moment. What is it that you want to discuss, Benjamin? She said coolly. It's about Lynn. She's been acting strangely, and I was wondering if you had any idea whether there was something. I was quickly interrupted. It's a bit difficult to follow your rambling, Benjamin. What is it that you want from me? She asked. I could almost see her standing there in her thin sweater and slacks, tapping her fingernails impatiently on the table. I wanted to know if you'd ever noticed any odd behavior or possibly any mental health issues? I asked. There was a long, uncomfortable pause that I couldn't tell was because she was thinking or something else. Finally, after a few seconds, she spoke. I'm not sure if this is one of your jokes, Benjamin, but if so, I don't find humor in it. Now, I do have business to attend to, as I've said, so if you don't mind, she said, but I cut her off before she could get rid of me. Marianne, it's not a joke. I'm sincerely concerned about Lynn's mental health. Her behavior has been very erratic lately. I'm very worried about her, and I figured as her mother, you would be as well. I said, my frustration evident in my voice. If you're if you're truly concerned, then I suggest you get the health professionals involved. I don't know what you expect of me. She snapped. I could tell she was seconds away from hanging up, and for some reason I was desperate not to let her. I had the feeling that she knew a lot more than she was letting on. Please, if not for me, do it for Lynn, I tried. I heard a faint, shaky intake of breath, as if she were trying to hold her steely persona together, but failing. Marianne, I started. Benjamin, I don't know what to tell you. My only advice would be to seek professional help. Do not call here again. Goodbye. I tried to call out to her, but she'd hung up. Oh. Shoot that bitch. Did you watch The Cell with J-Lo? And it has amazing Patrick Wilson. I don't know who Patrick Wilson is. The fact that the mom doesn't smile, I feel like that's maybe where it's coming from, you know? Like polar opposites. Oh god. Like I can see connections here, you know? Like a mental snap. The guy from the Conjuring movies. Oh, okay. The Cell is fucked. Oh shit. It's one of those. Sorry, my throat. Damn. I could hear my voice cracking a few times. It's like Inception, but inside the man who is a serial killer. Oh. What if whatever is possessing the wife had done it to her mom as well, and now the mom doesn't smile ever? Oh. Or maybe the dad had the same experience? Done this when she was younger. There's so many things that could have come from that. Oh my god. Okay. I'm excited. I'm gonna keep reading. I'm sorry. I want to know more.
Drink water, you dehydrated bitch!
Thank you, Tension. I appreciate you. I tried to wrap my head around the call and her refusal to help me. Even if she didn't like me, why wouldn't she want me to help her own daughter? I couldn't understand that. I tried to replay the conversation, desperate to find something I missed. After a while, I almost gave up until I remembered her last words to me. Seek professional help. She said those words with a bit of urgency. I could have just been grasping at straws, but no. I was sure her voice had changed ever so slightly when she'd said that, as if they were very important. What had she meant? I'd assumed she'd been referring to medical professionals, or maybe she was referring to someone else? Someone that she didn't, for some reason, feel comfortable saying directly. Or maybe I was just desperate. I waited for Chris to get home, and after a very long and exhausting conversation with him and Rebecca, I convinced them that Lynn truly needed psychiatric help. I didn't tell them everything. I wasn't prepared to go into it yet, but I told them about our last encounter. How she'd hidden in the bathroom, peeking at me from the closet. They were obviously shocked, but thankfully they believed me. They too just wanted to help her. Still, they didn't think it was all that serious. Weird, maybe, but not dangerous. They just kept saying that Lynn had to be playing some kind of weird joke. Maybe for YouTube, Rebecca offered, if only half-heartedly. Chris didn't think we should involve the police just yet. He offered instead to go with me, and I readily accepted. He reasoned that calmly talking to her, trying to coax her into going willingly, was the best recourse. I agreed to do it his way. At least I wouldn't go into that house alone. We drove over this morning just after breakfast. There was no way I was going at night. When we pulled into the driveway, my stomach began doing somersaults. Her car wasn't there, but I still didn't let my guard down. The front door was ajar, and for a split second, I thought we'd see her eyes staring through the gap. I was shaking and starting to sweat. Chris, however, was fine. He waited for me to open the door, his hands in his pockets like he was going on a fucking stroll through the park. I envied his ignorance. I pushed the door open and was immediately hit with the stench of rot. Chris smelled it too, and he walked into the house behind me with his nose scrunched up. What do you guys use to clean the floors around here? Shit? Chris mumbled. Shut up, I said, my eyes darting around for any signs of Lynn. The house was deadly quiet and dark despite being 10 in the morning. All the curtains were closed up tight, refusing to allow any sunlight inside. If I hadn't left it just 2 days prior, I'd have thought the house to be abandoned. We moved through each room, carefully checking any place that she might hide, occasionally calling her name. Why the fuck are you looking under the couch? Chris asked eventually. Aren't we looking for your wife? He was looking at me like I was a moron. Let's just go upstairs, I whispered. He shook his head but followed me upstairs to check the bathroom and spare bedroom. On the way up, my shoes crunched over pieces of glass that looked to be littered all over the few of the steps. I noticed that one of Lynn and my wedding portraits that hung on the wall along the staircase had been smashed. The frame hung crookedly, all the glass removed. I stared at the picture, a lump forming in my throat. We had taken the photo just after leaving church, after saying our vows. She looked so beautiful in her white gown. I looked at Lynn's beautiful face. I never dreamed her face would be a source of terror for me. We climbed the rest of the steps and checked the spare bedroom, but it looked completely untouched. I was hesitant to go into the bathroom, my fear from that night coming back to me all at once. Chris noticed and offered to go in by himself, but I couldn't let him do that. So we walked in together, checking the closet and the shower. The bathroom looked as if it hadn't been touched since I left it. I don't think she's here, Ben. Why don't you pack some clothes and we'll try coming back tomorrow or something? Chris said, and I nodded and went into our bedroom and shoved some clothes into a duffel bag. When I checked inside our closet, I came across the source of the smell and gagged. Chris took one look and lost all color in his face. He had to go stand by the stairs to get away from the sight and smell. I gazed down in shock at what lay inside my bedroom closet. Soaking into the rug were at least a dozen eyeballs, all carefully laid out in pairs. Some were as large as a quarter, while others were as tiny as a marble. I stared down at the eyes she collected from small animals, and I wondered how she'd gotten them, and shuddered at the thought. Man, I thought I had it bad with Becca's shoe addiction, but fuck me. Your wife's in here collecting eyeballs? Chris said, gagging. Ben, I think we should go, he called from the hall. I'm getting nauseous. All right. I grabbed my duffel and shut the closet door of my new nightmare. I stepped out into the hall and took a deep breath of air. I could taste the rot on my tongue, and I couldn't help but gag. Who the fuck lines up eyeballs in their closet like that? Chris mumbled. I tried to tell you she needed help, I said. She doesn't need help, Ben. She needs a fucking exorcist, he said. You coming or what? I can't stand the smell any. His words died in his throat, and his eyes grew wide with fear. I didn't ask him why. I could feel it. Someone was watching me, and I didn't think it was the eyes in the closet. I turned around, my eyes slowly scanning the bedroom. Christ, I whispered as I finally saw what we'd missed. Under the bed, curled on her side, watching us with the excitement of a kid on a Christmas morning, was my wife. She held her hands together just under her chin, and they were shaking eagerly. Now that she knew she'd been found, I could hear the quiet noises she was making, a sort of hiccuping sound in her throat, as if excitement was just too much for her. It was unnerving, to say the least. Wide eyes and that same huge smile. Everything in me told me to run, but I forced it away. This was my wife. No matter how twisted, she was still the woman I married, and I had to help her. Lynn, I said softly. She didn't respond, but her head bobbed back and forth in two quick little movements as if she were nodding. Baby, I just want to help, okay? Can you let me do that? I asked. I had taken a single step forward, approaching her like some kind of dangerous animal. I love you, Lynn, I said softly, taking another step closer. She let a tiny moan escape her wide open mouth, and I had to resist the urge to run. Her shoulders were starting to quiver, and her eyes grew as large as saucers. I crouched down so I could see her better, and immediately saw the blood. Her hands were covered in it. They trembled more the closer I got, as if she was barely able to contain herself. Lynn, are you hurt? You're bleeding, I said. She bobbed her head again, and her bloody fingers moving up and down as if playing an invisible piano. They occasionally grazed her chin, leaving smears of blood on her skin. I wanted to recoil in disgust. The smell that was coming off of her was revolting. I could feel the vomit trying to climb up my throat. Her lips were dry and stretched thin, blood seeping between the cracks. I knew she wouldn't come out on her own, but I didn't want to leave her in the state she was in. I scooted closer and reached out to her. The excited hiccuping sounds got louder and her hands shook, fingers flexing. It was then that I could see the blood oozing from between her fingers. Oh my God, Lynn, you're bleeding, I said. I instinctively reached out to take her hand, but before I could even touch her, her hand sprang out towards me. A sharp pain shot through my arm and I fell back on my ass. My arm burned, and I could see the blood dripping down onto the carpet. I looked back at her in shock and saw her grinning madly, her fingers clutching a large shard of glass. You all right in there? Chris asked from behind me. I turned my head slightly and nodded to him, cradling my arm to my chest. When I turned back to face Lynn, I saw that her focus had shifted. She wasn't looking at me anymore. She wasn't smiling anymore either. She was staring past me, her eyes glaring at Chris the way a hungry lion might stare at an antelope. Her mouth was still hanging open, but it was twisted into a snarl. I got to my feet and began walking down the hall, afraid to take my eyes off of her. Are you bleeding? Chris asked. The moment the words left my mouth, Lynn started fast scooting out from under the bed, the glass shard still in her fist. Chris, run, go! I yelled. He must have been too afraid to move because a second later I felt my back bump into him. He was still standing at the top of the stairs, staring in horror at the horror that was my wife. Lynn had crawled completely out from under the bed and stood in the bedroom doorway. Her face twisted in rage. Her whole body was visibly tense. Blood ran down her fingers onto the floor. Jesus, Lynn, Chris said. You, playing hide and seek? I reached back and pushed him down towards the steps. Move your ass, Chris, I said quietly but firmly as I could. Lynn bobbed her head in fast, sharp motions and began to grin, stretching her mouth open wider and wider so that her chin seemed to touch her chest. I heard Chris mutter a prayer and then was running down the stairs. I stood at the top of the steps, stuck between a love for a woman who clearly needed serious help and self-preservation. I only want to help, I said, choking back tears. Her eyes focused on me once again, and she slowly lifted the glass, holding it out in front of her. And then she started sprinting towards me, grinning with utter excitement. Thankfully, my body took over and I flew down the stairs, skipping 2 or 3 at a time. I made it to the front door before I felt her leap onto my back, wrapping her arms around my neck. Her mouth open next to my ear so I could hear those terrible hiccuping sounds up close. I shook her off of me, knocking her to the floor. I felt a searing pain in my back as she went, but I tore open the front door and bolted to my car. Chris was standing in the front yard, talking on the phone with the police, and I didn't say a word. I just ran to my car and jumped in. Chris took the hint and followed me, still on the line with 911. I watched the rearview mirror, sure I'd seen her there, running after us, but I never did. I went straight to the ER and got 11 stitches on my arm and 3 on my back. The police asked a lot of questions, and I went back to the house to do a search, but of course, Lynn wasn't there. They advised me to stay with a friend or a relative for a while and file a restraining order as soon as I could, but none of those things would matter. Somehow, I just knew. I dropped Chris off at home and went to the motel an hour away. I wanted to put as much distance between me and Lynn as I could. This is where I've been for the last 4 hours. I thought maybe the police would find her. Maybe they'd get her the help that she desperately needs. But now, I don't think so. Because 40 minutes ago, I got a text from an unknown number. Just 3 words. I found you. And a picture attached. The picture was dark and grainy, but I instantly knew what it was. There was no mistaking my wife's eyes. I started typing this out immediately after. I don't know what to do. I'm alone and scared. I can't help but feel that I'm being watched. Oh, dude. Oh. Yeah, no words. The mom definitely knows something, yeah. Someone commented, they said I was picturing like a Momo face. Do you guys remember Momo? A couple years back? That's exactly what I'm picturing. Jesus. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then you're about to. This dude. Fucking Jesus Christ, bro. Uh-uh. Oh, dude. Have you ever like I can't tell if I'm like reading for too long and like that's why I'm getting like this sensation. But whenever I get freaked out like to an extended degree, my eyes start to water. Like instantly, instant tears. I don't know if that's just me, but that's like my first reaction, I guess. Like not like start bawling my eyes out, but my eyes just start watering like they want maybe it's just crying. Maybe I'm just a fucking pussy, dude. That's probably it. The line, maybe I've just gotten better at it and made my heart drop. That's exactly what someone else said too. Knowing what we know now and then going back to that line is awful. That's just you. Oh, okay. Oh my god, bro. That was good. What was the other one you were talking about, tension? Did you put it in the Discord by chance? Perchance? Trying to remember. Pen pal, yes. Same person that suggested that one has two others they put with it. Oh my god, are you serious? I did. I just found it. Yeah, absolutely put those in the Discord. That was good, dude. There are plenty of audio videos that go through Pen Pal. Interesting. For those who have forgotten or simply never knew, about 5 months ago, I posted the following series here on No Sleep. Collectively, I call this story Pen Pal. By 1,000 vultures. 1,000 vultures! Something whistling past my house every night. See, like they don't sound like crazy interesting at first, but I know that shit's gonna go hard, you know? Read it by chapters, Avi. Yeah. So there's part 1, footsteps. That's the first bit. That's part 1. Part 1. Jimmy's mom. Jimmy's mom. Yup. Okay. I'll see how much more I can get through. My cat is hugging my arm. I can't use that arm now. No. It's an unfortunate incident. Starts as a child and then to adult. Oh. Sweet baby. Okay, so this is like someone's life story with pen pal. This is a true story, according to the author. The first line is, "This is long, so I apologize for that, but I've never had to tell this story with enough detail to actually explain it all the way. But it is true, and it happened when I was about 6 years old." First one was posted in 2011. I know, 13 years ago. Your mind is going to be blown. Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited. Okay, give me a second to ungamer neck, I think, is what I need to do. I'm going to massage my throat. Scary stories indeed. Super Mega Gauss SVF. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Welcome into the chat, dude. How are you? Sokka, that's enough, dude. All done. No. Yes, sir. Scary stories. I'm gonna call you Super Mega. Is that cool? If you guys want to read along while I'm reading it to you, I will put the link right here. Enjoy. Aaron, I swear to God, dude, if Max starts doing that, nope. Some creepy smiling and no blinking. I will immediately take him to a mental hospital. Because that is not Max. I know for a fact Max ain't doing that shit. How scary are we talking about? Honestly, dude, no clue. The last one, fucking terrifying. But I have never read these. Like this is the first time I'm experiencing these stories with you guys. But this one, what was it called? This one's called Pen Pal. It's by 1,000 Vultures on r/no sleep. According to the author, this is a true story, and we're starting at the beginning of their life at 6 years old. You develop a chill and anxiety. Yes. Yes. I'd say if you're moderately into scary stuff, but like you can't watch some of the more intense horror movies, I think you're okay here. Saw an interesting game recently. No, I'm not human. You take people in your house and you got to make sure it's people and not someone pretending to be people. That sounds really familiar. What is that? It's like Papers, Please, right? Very similar concept. Like you do checks on them. Certain tasks that you have to do to make sure. The art is really cool, and yes, it's similar to Papers, Please. Ooh. Okay. Dude, do you have the name of the game? I got a list of games that I want to play. That sounds intriguing. Sorry, guys. My throat is killing me. I'm gonna need a second. Men in Black. Gotta check teeth and nails and shit. Ew. No, I am not human is the name. I am not human. It's in beta or early access. Okay, bet. Dude, that sounds sick. Part of a big collection of indie horrors. It's a short game. I'm down for that. I love indie horror and I love short games. I mean, it does suck that they're short, but I think that's kind of the beauty of it sometimes is that they're short but sweet, you know? It doesn't go overboard. It does exactly what it's intending to do. The art is what drew me in. Creepy smiling guys. Oh, fuck. Super mega. Thanks for the follow, homie. Welcome to the house. Rent's due at the first of the month. And I don't prorate it, so be ready for that. Hi, stinky boy. Hi, Bubba. Are you sleepy? Are you sleepy, boy? Did you just want some nubbins? It's not bedtime yet. It's not. Thank you for
Drink
the
water,
shake.
you dehydrated bitch!
I will. Actually, I'm almost out of water. I am now out of water. But I got a smoothie still. A little bit of smoothie left. And I think I can get through this first section here. Before I'll need to refill. So without further ado, this is long, so I apologize for that. I've never had to tell this story with enough detail to actually explain it all the way. But it is true, and it happened when I was about 6 years old. In a quiet room, if you press your ear against a pillow, you can hear your heartbeat. As a kid, the muffled, rhythmic beats sounded like soft footsteps on a carpeted floor. And so, as a kid, almost every night, just as I was about to drift off to sleep, I would hear these footsteps and I would be ripped back into consciousness, terrified. For my entire childhood, I lived with my mother in a fairly nice neighborhood that was in a transitional phase. People with lower economic means were gradually moving in, and my mother and I were two of these people. We lived in all kinds of house you see being transported in two pieces on the interstate. But my mom took good care of it. There were a lot of woods surrounding the neighborhood that I would play in and explore during the day. But at night, as things often do to a kid, they took on a more sinister feeling. This, coupled with the fact that due to the nature of our house, there was a fairly large crawl space underneath, filled my mind with imaginary monsters and inescapable scenarios which would consume my thoughts when I was awoken by the footsteps. I told my mom about the footsteps, and she said that I was just imagining things. I persisted enough that she blasted my ears with water from a turkey blaster once to placate me, since I thought that would help. Of course, it didn't. Despite all the creepiness and footsteps, the only weird thing that ever happened that every now and then I would wake up to on the bottom bunk, despite having gone to sleep on the top. But this wasn't really weird. Wait. Despite all the creepiness and footsteps, the only weird thing that ever happened was that every now and then I would wake up on the bottom bunk despite having gone to sleep on the top. Oh, but this wasn't really weird since I'd sometimes get up to piss or something and drink, and I couldn't remember just going back to sleep on the bottom bunk. I'm only a child, so it didn't matter. This would happen once or twice a week, but waking up on the bottom bunk wasn't too terrifying. But one night, I didn't wake up on the bottom bunk. I heard the footsteps, but was too far gone to be woken up by them. And when I was woken, it wasn't the sound of footsteps or a nightmare, but because I was cold, really cold. When I opened my eyes, I saw stars. I was in the woods. I sat up immediately and tried to figure out what was going on. I thought I was dreaming, but that didn't seem right. Though neither did me being in the woods. There was a deflated pool float right in front of me, one of those ones shaped like a shark. This only added to the surreal feeling, but after a while it seemed like I was just going to wake up because I wasn't asleep. I stood up to orient myself, but I didn't recognize these woods. I played in the woods by my house all the time, and so I knew them really well. But if these weren't the same woods, then how could I get out? I took a step and felt shooting pain in my foot, which knocked me back to where I had just been laying. I had stepped on a thorn. By the light of the moon, I could see that they were everywhere. I looked at my foot, but it was fine. And as a matter of fact, so was the rest of me. I didn't have another scratch on me, and I wasn't even that dirty. I cried for a little bit and then stood back up. I didn't know which way to go and just picked a direction. I resisted the urge to call out since I wasn't sure. I wanted to be found by who out might be out there. I walked for what seemed like hours. I tried to walk in a straight line, tried to course correct when I had taken detours, but I was a kid and I was afraid. There weren't any howls or screams, and only once did I hear any noise that scared me. Sounded like a crying baby. I think now that it was just a cat, but I panicked. I ran, veering in different directions to avoid big thicks of bushes and collapsed trees, and I was paying close attention to where I stepped because the point my feet were in pretty bad shape. I paid too much attention to where I was stepping and not enough to where those steps were leading because not long after hearing the cry, I saw something that filled me with a kind of despair I haven't experienced since. It was the pool float. It was only 10 feet from where I had woken up. This wasn't magic or some supernatural space bending. I was lost. Up until that moment, I thought more about getting out of the woods than how I got in. But being back at the beginning caused my mind to swim. I wasn't even sure that these were my woods. I had only been hoping that they were. Had I run in a huge circle around that spot? Or did I just get turned around and start making my way back? How was I going to get out? At the time, I thought the North Star was just the brightest star. So I looked and found the brightest one and followed it. Eventually, things started to look more familiar, and when I saw the ditch, a dirt ditch my friends and I would have dirt clod wars in, I knew I had made it out. By that point, I was walking really slowly because my feet hurt so much, but I was so happy to be so close to home that I broke into a slight jog. When I actually saw the roof of my house over the neighboring lower set houses, I let out a light sob and ran faster. I just wanted to be home. I had already decided that I wouldn't say anything because I have no idea what I could possibly say. I would get back in the house somehow, clean up, get in bed. My heart sunk as I rounded the corner and my house came fully into view. Every light in the house was on. I knew my mom was up, and I knew I would have to explain, or try to explain, where I had been, and I couldn't even figure out where to start. My run became a jog, which became a walk. I saw her silhouette through the blinds, and although I was worried about how to explain things to her, that didn't matter to me at that point. I walked up the couple of steps to the porch and put my hand on the doorknob and turned. Right before I pushed it open, two arms wrapped around me and pulled me back. I screamed as loud as I could. Mom, help me, please, Mom! The feeling of being so close to being safe and then being physically pulled away from it filled me with a kind of dread that is, even after all these years, indescribable. The door I had been torn away from opened and a flash of hope shot through my heart. But it wasn't Mom. It was a man, and he was enormous. I thrashed around and kicked at the shins of the person holding me, while also trying to get away from the person who had just come out of my house. I was scared, but I was furious. Let me go. Where is she? Where's Mom? What'd you do to her? As my throat stung from screaming, I was drawing in another breath. I became aware of the sound that had been present for far longer than I'd perceived it. Honey, please calm down. I've got you. It sounded like my mom. The arms loosened and set me down, and as a man approaching me blocked out the porch light with his head, I noticed his clothes. He was a cop. I turned to face the voice behind me and saw it really was my mom. Everything was okay. I began to cry, and all three of us went inside. I'm so glad you're home, sweetie. I was worried I'd never see you again. By that point, she was crying too. I'm sorry. I I don't know what happened. I just wanted to come home. I'm sorry. It's okay. Just don't ever do that again. I'm not sure me or my shins could take it. A little laughter broke out through my sobs, and I smiled a bit. Well, I'm sorry for kicking you, but why'd you have to grab me like that? I was just afraid that you'd run away again. I was confused. What do you mean? We found your note on your pillow, she said, and pointed at the piece of paper that the police officer was sliding across the table. I picked up the note and read it. It was a running away letter. It said that I was unhappy, never wanted to see her or any of my friends again. The police officer exchanged a few words with my mom on the porch while I stared at the letter. I didn't remember writing a letter. I didn't remember anything about any of this. But even if I sometimes went to the bathroom at night and didn't remember, or even if I could have gone into the woods on my own, even if all that could have been true, the only thing I knew at that point was that isn't how you spell my name. I didn't write this letter. Oh. Edit. After a conversation with my mother about what happened when I was a kid, I was reminded of something that cannot be unrelated to this. It answers some questions about this story, but raises other questions that I'm still looking into. It also suggests that much of what I've been told about my life since I was a child wasn't true. You can find the new story here. Jesus. What's the most terrifying film y'all have seen? I've seen a lot of, none of them are scary, but Funny Games is the only one that comes close to making me feel weird. Funny Games. I haven't heard of that one. Um, Personally, I'd say like As Above, So Below. Talked about this earlier. That one is my favorite horror movie, and I think that one's instilled the most dread in me out of the ones that I've seen. But I also don't have a very extensive experience with horror movies, if that makes sense. Chapter 1 Footsteps is kind of like a precursor to what is to come. Dude, that already was good. That was already good. Oh, the next one's long. I just scrolled down to the comments. Lock store changes pants. VHS for
Drink
they go
water,
to a
you
cult.
dehydrated bitch!
Oh, I'll hydrate. I'll hydrate. I'm gonna put you guys on. My be right back. I do have to pee and refill my agua. I shall. Back. Aaron, tell him a joke.
Hey guys.
I seriously, like, this is like the third time that you've started telling a racist joke. I can't. You can't do this on stream. Okay, I'm gonna
Guys,
go
what's
grab
the
it now.
difference?
Maybe Wednesday or something like that.
Wednesday.
Oh my god, jeez!
Hey,
You scared the shit out of me, dude.
means I'm doing my job.
I just found out that I'm fucking stupid. But no, I find like scary stories and I read them on stream. So that's what we're gonna read. Taco Bell gives me the tummy ache. Oh yeah, it's bad. It's real bad. That makes me laugh so hard. How does cup taste like Taco Bell? Well, you see, if you're living Moss like I do, everything tastes like Taco Bell. Oh, I need to put a bucket on that bitch. Doesn't do as much good right now. What the fuck is that? Oh god. What he told them was so difficult to believe it actually landed him in a psychiatric ward for quite some time. He had claimed that while he was hiking, a strangely beautiful whistling sound filled the air. Somehow, his insane. Fred. Jesus Christ, man, relax. No? Well, I can change that for you. Watch yourself. Thank you for the 100 bits. My guess was you, Pixie. That's why I said your name. And then I guess Nexus. Oh. Lord Trosman? I probably butchered the shit out of it. My bad, dude. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to the house, and rent's due at the first of the month. I don't prorate it, so be ready for that. But yeah, welcome in. How are you? Oh. Alright, well, if House of House found dead, and his viewers still shooting. My aim's gotta be impeccable here. My music, my music, my music. Oh my. Nexus? I'm back. Zombie vampire alien combination leaving with a twisted ending? What the fuck? From a demon summoning? That's interesting. That's something else, dude. Oh man. All right. Was from VHS 1 or 2? Oh, I've heard of VHS. I forgot about that. I need to watch those. This next one is called Balloons. Used to hate zombie and alien movies, always so cliche. But but I really did like the 2002 Signs. That one I have seen. That one was decent. I did like that a lot. Yeah, like the Cowboys versus Aliens one. That one was super mid. I never liked zombie stuff. I did watch The Walking Dead for a bit, but I really only got to like season 3 at most. I don't even think I got to where Glenn died when everyone freaked out, you know? It just felt repetitive. Like there's nothing more for them to offer in the story. Same with The Walking Dead, yeah. Swing Away. What a great movie. Philosophy and Film went over it and was great discourse on the movie. Ooh. Philosophy and Film, is that a YouTuber? And it's just boring after a while, but man, I just like it's just not interesting when you keep doing the same shit. Like they escaped the zombies and now there's a new human threat podcast. Okay, I wonder if that's on. I could probably find that on Spotify. I mean, there's a ton of places. Oh, ton of places you can find podcasts. Oops. I spelled philosophy wrong. I found it. Chris McTavish, Elaine Beauclair, and Craig Nickel. That one? I followed it. 4.7. God damn. I'm actually okay. They did one on Dune. I did not like Dune. I saw the first one. I thought it was boring as hell. I have not read the book. And I don't think reading the book would have done anything more for me. I've seen Cinema Therapy, two guys' YouTube channel. It's pretty good. One is a licensed therapist, and the other one is a filmmaker. Oh, okay, that's fucking cool. Great chemistry. Okay, that's what a good podcast needs, honestly. 86th episode. Oh wow, they have a lot of episodes. They're long too. Fight Club. Donnie Darko, that one's good. Next food break video? Yeah. Yeah. Cinema Therapy. There it is. The next one down was Cinema Skrillex. All right, I subscribed. I subscribed. I think Cinema Therapy is mostly 30-minute videos. Perfect size. Philosophy and Film did Wally, and it was good too. Dude, honestly, I just love talking about shit, you know? To be fair, most of the time I don't have a lot to say, but if I have opinions, I have opinions, you know? And everyone's gonna hear about it. Everybody. I know my vape is not helping my sore throat, but I need it. Ooh. Okay. Ghibli or Ghibli? I know there's one right way to say it. I don't know which one it is, but which one do you say? Because Ghibli to me sounds like giblets. I've always said it like Ghibli films, Ghibli movies. And I think it's Ghibli. I'm not 100% sure. camera keeps going out of focus. I don't know what it's trying to look at. Is it trying to look up there? I think it is. Honestly, I'm not sure, but I love them. The first version, Ghibli. Okay, so it is Ghibli. So the people that are saying Ghibli are just fucking stupid. I don't remember who it was. It was someone recently, but I was like, Sokka, you need to chill out, bro. Stay over there. You're fine. Go sniffle somewhere else, bro. Hey. I'm saying it right then. That's what I'm saying. Imagine being caught saying Ghibli. All right, you guys ready for balloons? Balloons? It's time. A couple of days ago, I posted a story called Footsteps on here. There were a number of questions that made me curious about certain details about my childhood, and so I spoke with my mother. Exacerbated by my questions, she said, "Why don't you just tell them about the goddamn balloons if they're so interested?" As soon as she said that, I remembered so much about my childhood that I had forgotten. This story will provide some greater context for the previous story, which I think you should read first. Though the order isn't of a vital importance, reading the story first will put you in the place more effectively, since I remembered the events of Footsteps first. If you have questions or anything, feel free to ask and I'll try to answer them. Also, both stories are long, so heads up on that. I'm just hesitant to leave out any details that might be important. When I was 5 years old, I went to an elementary school that, from what I've come to understand, was really adamant about the importance of learning through activity. It was a part of a new program designed to allow children to rise at their own pace. And to facilitate this, their school encouraged teachers to come up with really inventive lesson plans. Each teacher was given the latitude to create his or her own themes, which would run for the duration of the grade. And all of the lessons in math, reading, etc. would be designing in the spirit of the theme. These themes were called groups. There was a space group and a sea group and an earth group. And the group I was in, community. In a kindergarten in this country, you don't learn much except how to tie your shoes and how to share. So most of it isn't very memorable. I only remember two things very clearly. I wasn't the best at writing my name the right way, and the balloon project, which was really the hallmark of the community group, since it was pretty clever way to show how a community functioned at a really basic level. You probably heard of this activity. On one Friday, I remember it being Friday because I was excited about the project and it being the end of the week. Toward the beginning of the year, we walked into the classroom in the morning and saw that there were a fully inflated balloon tied off with a string taped to each of our desks. Sitting on each of our desks was a marker, a pen, a piece of paper, and an envelope. The project was to write a note on the paper, put it in the envelope, and attach it to the balloon, which we would draw. We could draw a picture on it if we wanted. Most of the kids started fighting over the balloons because they wanted different colors, but I started on my note, which I had thought a lot about. All the notes had to follow a loose structure, but we were allowed to be creative within those boundaries. My note was something like this: "Hi, you found my balloon. My name is blank and I attend blank elementary school. You can keep the balloon, but I hope you write me back. I like Mighty Max, exploring, building forts, swimming, and friends. What do you like? Write me back soon. Here's $1 for the mail." On the dollar, I wrote 4 stamps right across the front, which my mom said was unnecessary. But I thought it was genius, so I did. The teacher took a Polaroid of each of us with our balloon and had us put them in the envelope along with our letter. They also included another letter that I assumed explained the nature of the project and sincere appreciation for anyone's participation in writing back and sending photos of their city or neighborhood. That was the whole idea, to build a sense of community without having to leave the school and establish safe contact with other people. It seemed like such a fun idea. Over the next couple of weeks, the letters started to roll in. Most came with pictures of different landmarks, and each time a letter would come in, the teacher would pin the picture on the big wall map we had put up showing where the letter had come from and how far the balloon had traveled. It was a really smart idea because we actually looked forward to coming to school to see if we had gotten our letter. For the duration of the year, we had 1 day a week where we could write back to our pen pal or another student's pen pal in case our letter hadn't come in yet. Mine was one of the last to arrive. When I came into the classroom, I looked at my desk once again and didn't see any letter writing for me. But as I sat down, the teacher approached me and handed me an envelope. I must have looked so excited because I was about to open it and she put her hand on mine to stop me and said, "Please don't be upset." I didn't understand what she meant. Why would I be upset now that my letter had come? Initially, I was mystified that she wouldn't even know what was in the envelope. But now I realized that, of course, the teacher had screened the contents to make sure there was nothing obscene. But all the same, how could I be disappointed? When I opened the envelope, I understood. There was no letter. The only thing in the envelope was a Polaroid, but I couldn't make out what it was. It looked like a patch of desert, but it was too blurry to decipher. It appeared as if the camera had been moved while taking the picture. There was no return address, so I couldn't even write back if I wanted to. I was crushed. The school year pressed on, and the letters had stopped coming for nearly all of the other students. After all, you can only continue a written correspondence with a kindergartner for so long. Everyone, including myself, had lost interest in the letters almost completely. Then I got another envelope. My excitement was rejuvenated, and I reveled in the fact that I was still getting a letter when most of the other pen pals had abandoned their involvement. It made sense that I had received another delivery. There had been nothing but a blurry picture in the first one, so this was probably to make up for that. But again, there was no letter at all, just another picture. This one was more distinguishable, but I still didn't understand it. The photograph was angled way up, catching the top corner of a building, and the rest of the image was distorted by a lens flare from the sun. Because the balloons didn't travel very far, and because they were all launched on the same day, the board became a bit cluttered, and so the policy for students still exchanging letters became that they could take photographs home. My best friend Josh had the second highest number of pictures taken home by the end of the year. His pen pal was really cooperative and sent him pictures from all around the neighboring city. Josh took home, I think, 4 pictures. I took home nearly 50. These envelopes were all opened by the teacher, but after a while I stopped even looking at the pictures. However, I saved them in one of my drawers that housed my collections of rocks, baseball cards, comic book cards, Marvel metal cards for those who might remember, and little miniature baseball batting helmets that I'd get at a vending machine at Winn-Dixie after T-ball games. With the school year over, my attention turned to other things. My mom had gotten me a small snow cone machine for Christmas that year, and Josh had really coveted it. So much so that his parents bought him a slightly nicer one for his birthday, which toward the end of the school year. That summer, we had the idea that we could set up a snow cone stand and make money. We thought we'd make a fortune selling snow cones at $1. Josh lived in a different neighborhood, but we eventually decided that my neighborhood would be better because there was a lot of people who cared for their lawns. The yards of my neighborhood were slightly bigger. We did this for 5 weekends in a row until my mom told us that we had to stop. I've only recently come to understand why she did that. On the 5th weekend, Josh and I were counting our money because we both had a machine. We had a separate stack of money that we put together in one stack and split it evenly. We had made a total of $16 that day. And as Josh paid out my $5th, a feeling of profound surprise consumed me. The dollar said, "For stamps." Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck me. Oh, full body chills. All my hair is standing on end. Oh. Can we talk about how bad of an idea that is? Just took a picture of a child with their name and their school, letting it go anywhere they can get it. Yeah, exactly. Josh noticed my shock, and he asked if he had miscounted. I told him about the dollar, and he said, "That's so cool, man." As I thought about it, I came to agree. The idea that the dollar had made it back to me after changing so many hands floored me. I rushed inside to tell my mom, but my excitement, coupled with her being distracted by a phone call, made my story incomprehensible, and she responded by simply saying, "Oh, wow, that's neat." Frustrated, I ran back outside and told Josh I had something to show him, back in my room. I opened the drawer and took out the stack of envelopes and showed him some of the pictures. I started with the first picture, and we went through about 10 before Josh lost interest and asked if I wanted to go play in the ditch, dirt ditch down the street from my house, before his mom came to pick him up. So that's what we did. We had a dirt war for a while, but it was interrupted several times by rustling in the woods around us. There was raccoons and stray cats that lived in there, but this was making a little too much noise, and we traded guesses at what it was in an attempt to scare each other. My last guess is that it was a mummy, but in the end, Josh kept insisting that it was a robot because of the sound that we heard. Before we left, he got a little serious and looked me right in the eyes and said, "You heard it, didn't you? It sounded like a robot. You heard it too, right?" I had heard it, and since it sounded mechanical, I agreed it was probably a robot. It's only now that I understand what we heard. Oh, fuck me, dude. When we got back, Josh's mom was waiting for him at the kitchen table with my mom. Josh told his mom about the robot. Our moms laughed, and Josh went home. My mom and I ate dinner, and then I went to bed. I couldn't stay in bed for long before I crept out and decided that, due to the day's events, I would revisit the envelopes since now the whole affair seemed much more interesting. I took the first envelope and set it on the floor. The set the blurry desert Polaroid on top. I laid the second envelope right next to it and placed the oddly angled Polaroid of the building's top corner on top, and did this with each picture until they formed a grid that was about 5 by 10. I was always taught to be careful with things that I was collecting, even if I wasn't sure they were valuable. I noticed that the pictures gradually became more decipherable. There was a tree with a bird on it, a speed limit sign, power line, and a group of people walking into some building. And then I saw something that vexed me so powerfully that I can now, as I write this, distinctly remember feeling dizzy and capable of only a single repeating thought. Why am I in this picture? In this photograph of a group of people entering a building, I saw myself holding hands with my mother in the very back of the crowd of people. We were at the very edge of the photo, but it was undeniably us. And as my eyes swam over the sea of Polaroids, I became increasingly anxious. It was a really odd feeling. It wasn't fear, it was the feeling you get when you're in trouble. I'm not sure why I was flooded with that feeling, but there I sat, floundering in the distinct sense that I had done something wrong. And this feeling only intensified as I looked at the rest of the photos after the one that I had so powerfully struck me. I was in every photo. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Story gets better. Dude. I could totally see this being real. None of them were close shots. None of them were only of me, but I was in every single one of them. Off to the side, in the back, bottom of the frame. Some of them only had the tiniest part of my face captured at the very edge of the photo. But nevertheless, I was there. I was always there. I didn't know what to do. My mind works in funny ways as a kid. But there was a large part of me that was afraid of getting in trouble simply for still being up. Since I already had the looming feeling of having done something wrong, I decided that I would wait until tomorrow. The next day, my mom was off work and spent most of the morning cleaning up around the house. I watched cartoons, I imagine, and I waited till I thought it was a good time to show her the Polaroids. When she went out to get the mail, I grabbed a couple of the pictures and put them on the table in front of me, as I sat waiting for her to come back in. When I returned, she was already opening the mail and threw some junk mail in the trash can, and I said, "Mom, can you come here for a second? I have these pictures. Just give me a second, honey. I need to mark these on the calendar." After a minute or two, she came and stood behind me and asked what I needed. I could hear her shuffling with the mail behind me, but I just looked at the Polaroids and told her about them. As I explained more and pointed to the pictures, her frequent uh-huhs and okays ceased, and she was suddenly completely quiet and only making a little noise with the mail. The next noise I heard from her sounded as if she was trying to catch her breath in a room that had no air left in it. At last, her struggling gasps were conquered, and she simply dropped the remaining mail on the table and ran to the kitchen to get the phone. "Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't know about these. Don't be mad at me." With the phone pressed to her ear, she was walking, running back and forth and shouting into it. I nervously fiddled with the mail sitting next to my Polaroids. The top envelope had something sticking out of it, and I thoughtlessly and anxiously pulled on it until it came out. It was another Polaroid. Confused, I thought that somehow one of my Polaroids had slipped into the stack when she threw the mail down. But when I turned it over, I looked at it and realized I had not seen this one before. To my dismay, it was me, but this one was a much closer shot. I was surrounded by trees and was smiling. But it wasn't just me. I noticed Josh was there too. This was us from yesterday. I started yelling for my mom, still screaming into the phone. I repeatedly yelled for her until she finally responded with, "What?" I could only think to ask, "Who are you calling?" "I'm talking with the police, honey." "But why? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do anything." She answered me with a response that I never understood until I was forced to revisit these events from the earliest years of my life. She grabbed the envelope off the table, and the picture of Josh and I spun and slid, landing next to the other Polaroids in front of me. She held the envelope up to my eyes, but I could only look at her and watch as all the color began draining out of her face. Tears welling up in her eyes as she said that she had called the police because there was no postmark. Oh. Oh my god. And that's the end of part 2. Jesus fucking Christ, bro. Can you imagine? Hide you kids, hide you dog. Dude. Fuck, there's 3 more parts? Oh, and they get longer. Oh my god, boxes is so long, bro. Like it could actually happen? Yeah. I mean, like, of all the people that are like, this is a true story, this one has got me. There's so many fine details. Oh. Fuck, dude. Oh my god. I want more. I don't. Okay, after reading this first portion of the first paragraph, I don't think it's true. I think I think 100 vultures or 1,000 vultures is coming up with this as things progress, which I'm perfectly okay with. I mean, it's a good story. That gave me like the most severe chills, right? But I don't think it's true after reading this. Oh, I think Balloons was supposed to be an ending, but it gained so much popularity that like was supposed to. I don't think it's actually true. It's the fake narrator of the story saying it's real. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I think there's some truth to it, but a very like expounded upon story, you know? I'm curious to see how Balloons and Footsteps tie together though. Gets more insane. Oh my god, bro. The writing is phenomenal. I'll say that much. I mean, like the pacing's good. The fucking one sentence drops, dude. More of a reach, in my opinion. That's what it kind of feels like. I think the first 2 were like solidly built in reality, you know? at least maybe like a 50-50 split. But I'll read you guys this first bit here. For those of you who have read my other stories and asked if there was more and received cryptic answers from me, I want to apologize for being dishonest. I said several times in the comments that nothing really happened after footsteps, but that wasn't true. The events of the following story were locked away in the recesses of my mind. I've always remembered them. That right there, that's kind of what hinted at it, you know? Yeah. I was reading that in the first like section. Yeah, dude, remind me, bro. The fucking pool float, is that what you're gonna refer to? The shark, it's a shark, right? That's my guess. The shark float's gonna tie in somehow. Oh. Narrator says he falls asleep on the bottom bunk but wakes up on the top. Wait, wasn't it the reverse? Like he always slept on the top bunk but woke up on the bottom multiple times? Okay. But that's important to the rest of this. That's like crucial. The robot was the Polaroid taking the picture. As soon as he said robot, I knew exactly what it was. It was the flicker of a Polaroid. Oh, guys, I'm so into this story. I'm so excited. Okay. It wasn't until I remembered balloons and spoke with my mother about the following events that I realized how intertwined this story was with everything else. But I originally hadn't planned on sharing this anyway. My desire was to withhold this memory was due mostly to the fact that I don't think I showed good judgment in it. Who cares? No one shows good judgment in fucking times like that, right? I also wanted consent from another person to tell it so as to not misinterpret what transpired. Fair. That's valid. I didn't expect there to be a lot of interest in my other stories, so I never thought I'd really get pressed for more details, and I would have been happy to keep this to myself for the rest of my life. I haven't been able to reach the other party, but I would feel disingenuous withholding this story from those who wanted more information now that I've spoken with my mother and another connecting line has been drawn. What follows is as accurate a recollection as I could manage. I apologize for the length. Never apologize for the length. The more we can get, bro, the better. Oh my god, that last one was gold. Oh, I spent the summer before my first year of elementary school learning how to climb trees. There was one particular pine tree right outside my house that seemed almost designed for me. It had branches that were so low I could easily grab them without a boost. And for the first couple of days, I learned how to pull myself up and would just sit on the lowest branch, dangling my feet. The tree was outside our back fence and was easily visible from the kitchen window, which was just above the sink. Before too long, my mother and I developed a routine where I would go play on the tree and she would wash dishes because she could easily see me while she did other things. As the summer passed, my abilities grew, and before too long, I was climbing fairly high. As the tree got taller, its branches not only got thinner, but more widely spaced, so I eventually reached a point where I couldn't actually climb any higher. So the game had to change. I began to concentrate on speed, and in the end, I could reach the highest branch in 25 seconds. I got too confident, and one afternoon I tried to step from branch before I had firmly grasped the next one. Fell about 20 feet and broke my arm really badly in two places. My mom was running towards me yelling, and I remember her sounding like she was underwater. I don't remember what she said, but I do remember being surprised by just how white my bone was. I was going to start kindergarten with a cast and wouldn't even have any friends to sign it. My mom must have felt terrible because the day before I started school, she brought home a kitten. Oh, no, 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 no. Okay, okay, okay. I got this. He was just a baby and striped with tan and white. As soon as she put him down, he crawled into an empty case of soda and that was sitting on the floor. I named him Boxes. I know, that's exactly my thought. Boxes was only an outside cat when he escaped. My mom had him declawed so he wouldn't destroy the furniture, so as a result, we did our best to keep him inside. He'd get out every now and then, and we'd find him somewhere in the backyard chasing some kind of bug or lizard. Though we could hardly ever catch one because he had no front claws. He was pretty evasive. But we'd always catch him and carry him back inside. He'd scramble to look back over my shoulder. I told Mom that it was because he was planning his strategy for next time. Once inside, we'd give him some tuna fish and come to learn what the sound of the can opener might signal. He'd come running whenever he heard it. This conditioning came in handy later, toward the end of our time in that house. Boxes would get out much more often and would run under the house into the crawl space where neither of us wanted to follow, because it was cramped and probably crawling with bugs and rodents. Ingeniously, my mom thought to hook the can opener to an extension cord out back and run it right outside the hole that Boxes had gone through. Eventually, he would emerge with his loud meows, looking excited by the sound and then horrified at how we could run such a cruel ruse on him. A can opener with no tuna made no sense to Boxes. That's cute. The last time he escaped to under the house was actually our last day in it. My mom had put the house on the market and we had begun packing our things. We didn't have much, and we stretched the packing out for a while. Though I had already packed up all my clothes at my mom's request, my mom could tell I was really sad about moving and wanted the transition to be smooth for me. And I guess she thought having my clothes in a box would reinforce the idea that we were moving, but things wouldn't change that much. When Boxes got out, we were loading some things into the moving van. My mom cursed because she had already packed the can opener and wasn't sure where it was. I pretended to go look for it so I wouldn't have to go under the house, and my mom, probably completely aware of my little scam, moved one of the panels and crawled in. She came out with Boxes pretty quickly and seemed pretty unnerved, which made me feel even better about getting out of it. My mom made some phone calls while I packed a little more, and then she came into my room and told me that she had spoken to the realtor and we were going to start moving into the other house that day. She said it like it was excellent news, but I thought we had more time in the house. She originally said that we weren't moving until the end of the next week, and it was only Tuesday. What's more, we weren't completely finished packing, but my mom said sometimes it's just easier to replace things than pack them and haul them all over the city. I didn't even get to grab the rest of my boxed clothes. If I could call Josh to say bye, but she said that we could just call him from our new house. We left in the moving van. What the fuck did she see under the house? I managed to stay in touch with Josh for years, which is surprising since we no longer went to the same school. Our parents weren't close friends, but they knew that we were, so they would accommodate our desire to see one another by driving us back and forth for sleepovers. Sometimes every weekend. For Christmas one year, our parents even pooled their money and got us a really nice walkie-talkies that were advertised to work across a range that extended past the distance between our houses. They also had batteries that could last for days if the walkie-talkie was on but not used. They would only occasionally work well enough that we could talk across the city, but when we stayed over, we'd use them around the house, talking in mock radio speak that we had taken from movies, and they worked great for that. Thanks to our parents, we were still friends when we were 10. One weekend, I was staying over at Josh's, and my mom called me to say goodnight. She was still pretty watchful even when she couldn't actually watch me, but I had gotten so used to it that I didn't even notice, even if Josh did. She sounded upset. Boxes was missing. This must have been a Saturday night because I had spent the night at Josh's the previous night and was going to go home the next day because we had school on Monday. Boxes had been missing since Friday afternoon. I gathered that she had not seen him since returning home and dropping me off. She must have decided to tell me he was missing because if he didn't come home before I did, then I would be devastated at not only his absence, but how she could have kept it from me. She told me not to worry. He'll come back. He always does. But Boxes didn't come back. 3 weekends later, I stayed at Josh's again. I was still upset about Boxes, but my mom told me that there had been many times when pets had disappeared from homes for weeks or even months, only to return on their own. She said they always knew we're home and would always try to get back. I was explaining this to Josh when a thought hit me so hard that I interrupted my own sentence to say it out loud. What if Boxes thought of the wrong home? Josh was confused. What? He lives with you. He knows where home is. But he grew up somewhere else, Josh. He was raised in my old house a couple of neighborhoods away. Maybe he still thinks of that place as home like I do. Oh, I get it. Well, that'd be great. We'd tell Dad tomorrow and he'll take us over so we can look. No, he won't, man. My mom said that we couldn't never go back to that place because the new owners wouldn't want to be bothered. She said that she told your mom and dad the same thing. Josh persisted. Okay, then we just go out exploring tomorrow. Make our way to the old house. No, if we get spotted, Dad will find out, and so will my mom. We have to go there ourselves. We have to go there tonight. Fuck, dude. Dude. No, 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 no. Didn't take that much convincing to get Josh on board, since he was usually the one to come up with ideas like this. But we had never snuck out of the house before. It actually turned out to be incredibly easy. The window in his room opened to the backyard, and he had latched wooden fence that wasn't locked. After those two minor hurdles, we slipped off into the night, flashlight and walkie-talkies in hand. There were two ways to get from Josh's house to my old house. We could walk on the street and make all the turns or go through the woods, which would take about half the time. It would have taken about 2 hours to walk there on the street, but I suggested that we go that way anyway. I told him it was because I didn't want to get lost. Josh refused and said that if we were seen, they might recognize him and tell his dad. He threatened to go home if we didn't just take the shortcut, and I accepted it because I didn't want to go by myself. Josh didn't know about the last time I walked through these woods at night. The woods were much less creepy with a friend and a flashlight, and we were making pretty good time. Wasn't entirely sure where we were, but Josh seemed confident enough that bolstered my morale. We passed through the particularly thick patch of tangled trees when the strap of my walkie-talkie got caught on a branch. Josh had the flashlight, and so I was struggling to get the walkie talkie free when I heard Josh say, "Hey man, want to go for a swim?" What the fuck? I looked over to where he was shining the flashlight, though I closed my eyes as I did, because I now knew where we were. He was pointing at the pool float. This was where I had woken up in the woods all those years ago. I felt a lump in my throat and the sting of fresh tears in my eyes as I continued to struggle with the walkie. Frustrated, I yanked on it hard enough to break it free and turned and walked to Josh, who had partially laid down on the pool float in a mock sunbathing pose. As I walked towards him, I stumbled and nearly fell into a fairly large hole that was sitting in the middle of this small clearing. But I regained my balance and stopped right at its edge. It was deep, surprised by the others, surprised by the size of the hole, but more surprised by the fact that I didn't remember it. I realized it must not have been there that night because it was in the same spot I had awoken. I put it out of my mind and turned to Josh. "Quit messing around, man. You saw I was stuck over there and you were just laying here joking around on this float." I punctuated the sentence with a kick to the exposed part of the float, and screeching rose from it. Josh's smile inverted. He suddenly looked terrified and was struggling to get off the float, but couldn't in a quick manner due to the awkward way he had been laying on it. Each time he would fall back on the float and the screeching would intensify. I wanted to help Josh, but I couldn't move myself any closer. My legs wouldn't cooperate. I hated these woods. I picked up the flashlight that he had thrown in his thrashing and shined it on the float, not knowing what to expect. Finally, Josh got off the float and rushed next to me where I was shining the light. Suddenly, there it was. It was a rat. I started laughing nervously, and we both watched the rat run into the woods, taking the screeches with it. Josh lightly punched me in the arm, the smile slowly returning to his face, and we continued walking. We quickened our pace and made it out of the woods faster than we thought we would, and found ourselves back in my old neighborhood. The last time I had rounded the bend ahead and I seen my house fully illuminated, all the memories of what had transpired came flooding back. I felt a skipping in my heart as we finally were turning the corner and about to face the full view of my house. Remembering the last time, how incandescent it was. But this time, all the lights were off. From a distance, I could see my old climbing tree, and as my mind traced the steps of casuality backward, I realized that I wouldn't back here this night if the tree hadn't grown, and I was briefly in awe of how all events were like that. As we got closer, I couldn't see the lawn. I could see the lawn looked terrible. I couldn't even guess where it had been moved. One of the shutters had partially broken loose and was rocking back and forth in the breeze. All of the house just looked dirty. It was sad to see my old home in such a state of disrepair. Why would my mom care if we bothered the new owners if they cared so little about where they lived? And then I realized there were no new owners. The house was abandoned, though it looked simply forsaken. Why would my mom lie to me about the house having new people in it? But I thought that it was actually a good thing. It would be easier to look around for boxes if we didn't have to worry about being spotted by the new family. This would make it much quicker. Josh interrupted my thoughts as we walked through the gate and up to the house itself. "Your old house sucks, dude," Josh yelled quietly as he could. "Shut up, Josh. Even like this, it's still nicer than your house." Hey, man. Okay. I think boxes is probably under the house. One of us has to go under and look, but the other should stay next to the opening in case he comes running out. Are you serious? There's no way I'm going under there. It's your cat, man. You do it. Look, I'll game you for it, unless you're too scared, I said, holding my fist over my upturned palm. Fine, but we go on shoot, not on 3. It's rock, paper, scissors, shoot, not 1, 2, 3. I know how to play the game, Josh. You're the one who always messes up, and it's 2 out of 3. I lost. Oh, God. I wiggled loose the panel that my mom would always move when she had to crawl under there for boxes. She only had to do it a couple of times since the can opener trick usually worked. But when she had to do it, she hated it, especially that last time. And as I looked into the darkness of the crawl space, I had a greater appreciation for why. Before we moved, she said that it was actually better that boxes ran under here. Despite how hard it could be to get him out, it was less dangerous for him than jumping over the fence and running around the neighborhood. After all that was true, but it was still dreading doing this. I grabbed the flashlight and then the walkie and began to crawl in. A powerful smell overtook me. It smelled like death. I turned on my walkie. Josh, are you there? This is Macho Man, come back. Josh, cut it out. There's something down here. What do you mean? It stinks. Smells like something died. Is it boxes? I really hope not. I set down the walkie and moved the flashlight around as I crawled forward. Looking through the hole from outside, you could see all the way back with the right lighting. But you had to be inside to see around the support blocks that held the house up. I'd say that there was about 40% of the area that you couldn't see unless you were actually in the crawl space. But even inside, I discovered that I could only see directly where the flashlight was pointing. I realized that this would make scouting around the place much more difficult. As I moved forward, the smell intensified. The fear was growing in me that Boxes had come here and something had happened to him. I shined the flashlight around, but couldn't see much of anything. I wrapped my fingers around a support block to pull myself forward, and as I did, I felt something that made my hand recoil. Fur. My heart sank and I prepared myself emotionally for what I was about to see. I crawled slowly so I could prolong what I knew was coming, and I inched my eyes in the flashlight past the block to see what was on the other side. I staggered back in horror. Jesus Christ! Escaped my trembling mouth. It was a hideous and twisted creature, badly decomposed. Its skin had rotted away on its face, so the teeth appeared to be enormous and the smell was unbearable. What is it? Are you okay? Is it Boxes? I reached for the walkie. No, it's not Boxes. Well, what the hell is it? I don't know. I shined the light on it again. I looked at it with less fear in my vision. I chuckled. It's a raccoon. Well, keep looking. I'm gonna go into the house and see if he might have made it in there somehow. What? No, Josh, don't go in there. What if Boxes is down here and runs out? He can't. I put the board back. I looked and saw that he was telling the truth. Why'd you do that? Don't worry, man. You can move it easily. This makes more sense. Boxes ran out and I'd missed him, then he'd be gone. If he's down there and then grab him tight and I'll move the board. And if he's not, then you can move it yourself while I look in the house. Some of his points were good, and I doubted he'd be able to get in anyway. Okay, well, be careful and don't touch anything. There's a bunch of my old clothes still in boxes in my room. You can look in there to see if he crawled into one. Make sure to bring your walkie. Roger that, good buddy. I realized that it would be pitch black in there. The power would have been turned off since no one was paying the bill. With any luck, he'd be able to see the street lights that might cast some light inside. Otherwise, I'm not sure what he'd be able to do. Before too long, I heard footsteps right over my head and felt old dirt raining down on me. Josh, is that you? Breaker, breaker, this is Macho Man coming back for the big Tango Foxtrot. The Eagle has landed. What's your 20, Princess Jasmine? Over. Asshole. Princess Jasmine. Macho Man, my 20 is in your bathroom looking at your stash of magazines. Looks like you've got a thing for dudes' butts. What's the report on that? Over. I could hear him laughing without the walkie, and I started laughing too. I heard the footsteps fade away a little. He was on his way to my room. Man, it's dark in here. Hey, are you sure you had boxes of clothes in here? I don't see any. Yeah, there should be a couple of boxes in front of the closet. There aren't any boxes in here. Let me check and see if maybe you put the boxes in the closet before you left. Started thinking that maybe my mom had come back and gotten the clothes and just gotten them away because I had outgrown a lot of them. But I remember leaving the boxes there. I didn't have time to close the last one up before we left. While I was waiting for Josh to tell me what he found, I kicked out my leg and had started falling asleep because of the position I was in, and it hit something. I looked back and saw something really strange. It was a blanket, and all around it there were bowls. I crawled a little closer to it. The blanket smelled moldy, and most of the bowls were empty. But one had something that I recognized still in it. Cat food. It was a different kind than we gave to boxes, but I suddenly understood. My mom had set up a little place for boxes to encourage him to come here instead of running around the neighborhood. That made a lot of sense, and it seemed even more likely that boxes would have come back to this place. That's so cool, Mom, I thought. I found your clothes. Oh, cool. Where were the boxes? Like I said, there are no boxes. Your clothes are in the closet. They're hung up. I felt a chill. That was impossible. I had packed all my clothes. Even though we weren't supposed to move for another 2 weeks when we left, I remember packing them and thinking that this was stupid of me to get clothes out of the box and put them back in. I had packed them, but someone hung them back up? Why, though? Josh needed to get out of there. That can't be right, Josh. They're supposed to be in boxes. Stop messing around and just come back outside. No joke, man. I'm looking at him. Maybe you just thought that you left him? Wow. You sure look at yourself, don't you? What? What do you mean? Your walls, man. Your walls are covered in Polaroids of yourself. There are hundreds of them. Would you hire someone to... I checked my walkie to see if it had switched off somehow. It was fine. I could hear footsteps, but I couldn't tell exactly where Josh was going. I waited for Josh to finish his sentence, thinking that his finger had just slipped off the button, but he didn't continue. He seemed to be stomping around the house now. I was just about to radio him when he came back. There's someone in the house. His voice was hushed and broken. I could hear he was on the verge of tears. I wanted to respond, but how loud was his walkie turned up? What if the other person heard it? I said nothing and just waited and listened. What I heard were footsteps. Heavy, dragging footsteps. And then a loud thud. Oh God, Josh! He had been found. I was sure of it. The person that had found him was hurting him. I broke out in tears. He was my only friend next to boxes, and then I realized, what if Josh told him I was under here? What could I possibly do? As I struggled to compose myself, I thankfully heard Josh's voice through the walkie. He's caught something, man. It's a big bag. He just threw it on the floor. And, oh God, man, the bag. I think it just moved. I was paralyzed. I wanted to run home. I wanted to save Josh. I wanted to go for help. I wanted so many things, but I just lay there, frozen. As I lay unable to move, my eyes focused on the corner of the house that was right under my room. I moved my flashlight. My breath hitched at what I saw. Animals. Dozens of them. All of them dead. They lay in piles all around the perimeter of the crawl space. Could boxes be among those corpses? What if... Was this what the cat food was for? Seeing this broke my shock as I knew I had to get out of there, and I scrambled to the board. I pushed on it, but it wouldn't budge. I couldn't move it because I was wedged in there. Couldn't get my finger around it, and the edges were outside. I was trapped. God damn you, Josh, I whispered to myself. I could feel thunderous footsteps above me. The house was shaking. I heard Josh scream, and it was matched by another scream that wasn't full of fear. As I continued pushing, I felt the board move, but I knew it wasn't me who was moving it. I could hear footsteps above me and in front of me, shouting and screaming and filling the brief silences between footsteps. I moved back and held my walkie, ready to try and defend myself, and the board was thrown to the side, and an arm shot in and grabbed for me. Let's go, man. Now! It was Josh. Thank God. I scrambled out the opening, holding the flashlight and the walkie. When we got to the fence, we both jumped at. Josh's walkie fell. He reached for it, and I told him to forget it. We had to move. Behind us, I could hear yelling, though they weren't words, only sounds. And we, perhaps foolishly, ran for the woods to get back to Josh's quicker and somewhat harder to follow. The whole way through the woods, Josh kept yelling, "My picture! He took my picture!" But I knew the man already had Josh's picture. I already knew the man had Josh's picture. From all those years ago at the ditch, I suppose Josh still thought those mechanical sounds were from a robot. We made it back to Josh's house and back into his room before his parents woke up. I asked him about his big bag and if it really moved, and he said he couldn't be sure. He kept apologizing and dropping the walkie at the house, but obviously that wasn't a big deal. We didn't go to sleep and sat peering out the window waiting for him. I went home later that day, and it was about 3 a.m. already. I told my mom the basics of the story a couple days ago. She broke down and was furious about the danger I put myself in. I asked her why she made all those things up about bothering the new owners to stop me from going. Why did she think the house was so dangerous? She became irate and hysterical, but she answered my question. She grabbed my hand and squeezed it harder than I thought her capable of and locked her eyes to mine, whispered as if she was afraid of being overheard. Because I never put fucking blankets or bowls under the house for boxes. You weren't the only one to find them. Oh. I felt dizzy. I understood so much now. I should change your name to I Can Relieve the Tension. Holy shit, dude. Did she not call the police after finding out he was living under the house? I think that's because she immediately went inside and started making phone calls. That's my guess. They left that day. Left everything at the house. Jesus Christ. I felt dizzy. I understood so much now. I understood why she had looked so uneasy after she brought boxes out from under the house on our last day there. She found more than spiders or rats' nests that day. I understood why we left almost 2 weeks early. I understood why she tried to stop me from going back. She knew. She knew he made his home under ours. She kept it from me. I left without saying another word and didn't finish the story for her. But I want to finish it here for you. I got home from Josh's that day. I threw my stuff on the floor and it scattered everywhere. I didn't care. I just wanted to sleep. I woke up around 9 p.m. to the sound of boxes meowing. My heart leapt. He had finally come home. I was a little sick about the fact that I had just waited a day. None of the previous night's events would have happened, and I'd have boxes anyway. But that didn't matter. He was back. I got off my bed and called for him, looking around to catch a glint of light in his eyes. The crying continued, and I followed it. It was coming from under the bed. I laughed a little, thinking I had just crawled under a house looking for him, and how this was so much better. His meows were being muffled by a shirt, so I flung it aside and smiled, yelling, "Welcome home, boxes!" His cries were coming from my walkie-talkie. Boxes never came home. Oh! Oh, fuck. Oh. Yeah, too creative. What the fuck? My monitor just flickered. Maybe he was already living there before the assignment, hence the wood experience. Oh, wait. Yeah. The woods happened after. Because the balloons was a precursor. He had to go back in time to explain the balloon situation. He got ahead of himself and just forgot about the balloons because the woods was so jarring. Dude, this playlist hits different though. we're being honest, you know? The music really makes the fucking mood. And it always finds a way to hit right at the right moments, you know? Oh god, this is the longest one yet. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, you guys, but I don't have the voice for it. Fair tension. Fair, dude. Oh, toot. Fuck me, bro. I do need to rest my throat. We got 2 more of these to read. Let me bookmark this so I don't lose it. Did I actually go on my bookmarks bar? It did. Fuck, man. 3 more? Is there? Because we just finished part 3. They get intense. There's 6? Holy shit, bro. Oh, and I know this next one's going to be good because I'm looking at one of the comments. Reading your post makes me never want to let my future children out of my sight. Ever. Curiosity killed boxes. Yeah. We can start the next stream reading the 3? We could, yeah. I'm down for that. Yeah, it was just meowing, right? Boxes is still alive so far. Still alive. Fuck, bro. Okay. I'm gonna tell you what. That was some heavy shit. Okay? We've done our heavy shit for the night. We're gonna raid a little bit of a bigger streamer, but I've just been enjoying the fuck out of this guy's streams, right? Very fun to watch. Very entertaining. Um we're gonna go raid Wavy. I hate when people say curiosity killed the cat because they never finish the actual saying. It continues to say, but satisfaction brought it back. Figure of speech. Yeah. Oh my god, dude. I was gamer necking so hard in the end there. Oh. But yeah, homie's playing some TCG card shop simulator. I am Jesus fucking Christ, bro. This shit kind of makes my head spin, bro. But yeah, mind-numbing entertainment after soul-crushing content. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? That's what this is. That's what this is. All right, you guys. Anyways. As always, I love you. I'm proud of you. And I hope you guys have an absolutely wonderful rest of your night. Thank you all for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed your time here. And don't forget our raid message, bro. Don't forget it.